Welcome to Lions News Fan Report, your go-to source for the latest updates, breaking developments, and insider analysis on our beloved Detroit Lions. Today I'm bringing you something that could fundamentally shift the trajectory of our entire season. And I need you to stick with me through every detail because what I'm about to share has massive implications for our playoff push. There's movement happening around Allen Park that signals Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes might be preparing something that nobody saw coming. And when you connect all the dots, the picture becomes crystal clear. We're talking about a potential transformation of our offensive line at the exact moment we need it most. And the names being discussed aren't just depth pieces or developmental projects. These are established, battle-tested veterans who've dominated in the trenches for years. I'm going to walk you through exactly why this makes perfect sense strategically, what it means for our offensive identity moving forward, and how this could be the chess move that separates us from every other contender in the NFC. So lock in, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand why the next few weeks could define our entire championship window. Let me set the stage for where we are right now as a franchise. The Lions have been dominant in many phases this season, but if there is one area that's shown vulnerability, it's been the offensive line, particularly at the guard positions. We lost Christian Mahogany to a devastating broken ankle in Week 9 against Minnesota, and Coach Campbell was straightforward about the timeline, saying Mahogany will be sidelined for a long time. That's not coach speak. That's reality. We're talking about a significant injury that leaves us dangerously thin at a position group that's supposed to be our foundation. Now, the immediate response was signing rookie Jack Conley to the practice squad, which is fine as a depth move, but let's be honest with each other here. Relying on Tristan Colin or Kingsley Egwakun as long-term starters in a playoff race isn't the aggressive mentality that's gotten us to back-to-back NFC North titles. This is where championship teams separate themselves from pretenders. They identify problems early, and they attack them with conviction. Here's where things get interesting, and I need you to pay close attention to the timeline and the context. The Cleveland Browns are currently in rebuild mode, sitting at 2 wins and 7 losses, and they've made it abundantly clear that veterans are available for the right price. 2 names keep surfacing in league circles: Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller, both multiple-time Pro Bowl guards who represent exactly the kind of elite talent that can stabilize an offensive line immediately. Bitonio is a 6-time Pro Bowler with over a decade of experience protecting quarterbacks and opening running lanes. Teller is a 3-time Pro Bowler, known for his devastating power in the run game and exceptional pass protection. These aren't theoretical upgrades. These are proven difference makers at the NFL's highest level. Now, conventional wisdom suggested the Lions wouldn't be aggressive at the trade deadline, especially after remaining quiet when other teams were making moves. But here's what most people are missing. The trade deadline has passed, which means if the Lions want to make a significant addition, they'd be looking at the free agency market or post-cut candidates. However, there's growing speculation that Detroit's front office has been in communication with Cleveland about potential moves involving both Bitonio and Teller. Let me explain why this makes strategic sense from every angle. First, consider Dan Campbell's offensive philosophy. This is a coach who built his reputation on physical, ground-and-pound football. We've seen it work brilliantly when we have the horses up front. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs aren't just talented running backs, they're game changers when given proper blocking schemes and lanes to work with. But here's the reality. Our offensive line hasn't been the dominant force it was in previous seasons. We've taken a step back, and that step back directly correlates with injuries and depth issues at guard. Adding Bitonio and Teller would immediately restore that physicality and give us 2 guards who specialize in exactly what Campbell values most: power, consistency, and nastiness in the trenches. These guys aren't finesse blockers. They're maulers who finish plays and set the tone for an entire offensive identity. Second, let's talk about Jared Goff's protection. Our quarterback has been exceptional this season, but he's at his best when he has time in the pocket and confidence in his interior protection. Guards are crucial for picking up interior rushes, handling stunts, and providing that stable pocket that allows Goff to go through his progressions. Bitonio has been one of the league's most reliable pass protectors for years, consistently ranking among the top guards in pass blocking efficiency. Teller brings a similar skill set with added versatility. Together, they would form arguably the best guard tandem in the entire NFL, and that's not hyperbole. Think about what that does for our offensive coordinators' play-calling flexibility. Suddenly, you can run any concept you want because you trust your interior to execute. Play action becomes more dangerous because defenses have to respect the run. Quick passing game becomes more efficient because the pocket is clean. Everything cascades from having elite guard play. Third, consider the championship window we're operating in. The Lions aren't rebuilding or developing. We're competing for a Super Bowl right now. Aiden Hutchinson is in his prime. Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of the league's best receivers. Jared Goff is playing at an elite level. Our defense, despite some concerns, has playmakers throughout. This is the time to be aggressive, to identify weaknesses, and attack them with premium talent. Brad Holmes has shown he's not afraid to make big moves when the opportunity presents itself. Remember the Jared Goff trade, the Jameson Williams draft pick? These were calculated risks that required vision and conviction. Pursuing Bitonio and Teller would fall directly in line with that philosophy. You don't wait for problems to derail your season, you solve them before they become catastrophic. Now let's address the elephant in the room, cost and feasibility. Bitonio is 33 years old, and Teller is 30, which means they're not long-term building blocks, they're win-now pieces. That actually works perfectly for Detroit's timeline. We don't need them for the next decade, we need them for this playoff push, and potentially next season. From Cleveland's perspective, they're rebuilding and have young guards developing behind these veterans. Moving on from expensive veterans makes sense when you're not competing. The compensation would likely involve mid-round draft picks, something the Lions can afford given their strong drafting record and current roster construction. The salary cap implications would need to be managed, but Detroit has shown creativity in restructuring deals and creating space when necessary. This isn't about mortgaging the future, it's about maximizing the present. Let me paint the picture of what our offensive line could look like with these additions. You'd have Taylor Decker at left tackle, Joel Bitonio at left guard, Frank Ragnow at center, Wyatt Teller at right guard, and Penei Sewell at right tackle. Read that lineup again and tell me that's not the most dominant offensive line in football. You're talking about 3 Pro Bowlers in Bitonio, Ragnow, and Sewell, plus Teller, who's been to 3 Pro Bowls himself, all anchored by one of the league's best young tackles in Decker. That's the kind of offensive line that wins championships. That's the kind of offensive line that allows you to impose your will in January when the weather turns brutal and games are won in the trenches. That's the kind of offensive line that makes defensive coordinators lose sleep trying to scheme ways to generate pressure. The timing of this potential move is also crucial. We're entering the most important stretch of our season, with division games and playoff positioning on the line every single week. Having elite guard play isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Look at recent Super Bowl champions and you'll see a consistent pattern. Dominant offensive line play. The Chiefs protect Patrick Mahomes with one of the league's best lines. The Eagles rode their offensive line dominance to a Super Bowl appearance. The Rams won it all with a revamped line that protected Matthew Stafford. This isn't revolutionary thinking, it's proven championship formula. The Lions understand this, and if the speculation about pursuing Bitonio and Teller is accurate, it shows they're committed to building a roster capable of winning it all. I also want to address what this move would signal about our organization's confidence and ambition. Making a splash acquisition of 2 Pro Bowl guards would send a clear message to the rest of the league. The Detroit Lions are all in on this season. It would energize our locker room, give our coaching staff more tools to work with, and frankly, it would intimidate opponents who'd see us continuing to add elite talent while they're standing pat. That psychological edge matters. Teams that show they're willing to be aggressive and creative attract other players and create a culture of winning. Free agents want to play for organizations that demonstrate championship commitment. This is how you build sustained success, not just a one-year fluke. Before I wrap up, I want to hear from you. Bye. Do you think the Lions should pursue Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller? Would adding 2 Pro Bowl guards at this stage of the season be worth the cost in draft capital? How would you feel about going all in right now versus preserving resources for the future? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I read every single one and your perspective matters to me. This is your team as much as it is mine, and I value the discussion and debate that makes our community special. Here's the bottom line. Speculation about the Lions targeting Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller represents exactly the kind of aggressive, championship-focused mentality we need. These aren't just names being thrown around. They're legitimate answers to a real problem. If Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell can make this happen, we're looking at a completely transformed offensive line capable of dominating any front seven in football. This is the type of move that separates contenders from champions, and I'm confident our front office understands the urgency of this moment. Stay locked into Lions News Fan Report for all the latest developments, analysis, and insider updates. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Share this with every Lions fan, because this community is what makes following this team special. Let's go get that Lombardi trophy. One pride,